open this up because I think it's important for me to take it on the chin and people to say I'm full of bull here in front of you guys. Somebody might have a strong criticism, and I think everybody needs to hear the strong criticism so that, you know, I'm not misleading. So I want to open it up, and Danzil, maybe you could call on people if you see them waving, and call them out by name. If you want to make a comment, you can just raise your hand and we'll try to, okay, I see Dan. Dan, go ahead. Why don't you start?
Yeah, so I mean, Ernest Haeckel's, obviously there's a book written about his frauds, and yet the images, his drawings still appear, as I understand it, in either high school or college biology textbooks
Yes.
today. So it doesn't seem to me that the world is too concerned about the revelation of fraud and all that. So do you see your work doing any differently than other works of exposing fraud, right? Because they're obviously committed to a worldview, right? And rescuing devices are going to be flying left, right, and center. So what rescuing devices do you see coming out to in defense of your work?
Dr. Warner, before you answer that, can I? He has a specific question for you. But he made a statement, as part of that question that I want to respond to real quick, so that will probably help you with your question, with your answer. Is that he's absolutely right that they're already known. Some of these things are known, they're well known, and you seem like there's no one making a big thing about it. The reason why no one's making a big deal about it is because we're not. You see, we have the goods; those are very serious problems. But if we don't make them face these serious problems as serious problems, then they'll keep on brushing them under the rug or poo-pooing them. It is our responsibilities as believers to make these things the magnitude of problems that they actually are. Whenever we talk to somebody, or whenever we write, or whenever we interview somebody, or whenever somebody talks to us about it, that's the only way we're going to make this thing relevant in our society. Go ahead, Doc.
And actually, Danzil, that is the perfect answer. I think that is the answer to his question, and that's really the point. We have to take this and put it in their face and not let it die. Now, the best thing, Dan, is this Tumai, because it was just on the front page of Nature. It was on the front page of Time magazine, and it's in all the museums, and you could just raise a stink about that. And then you have the goods in video 8 of him just telling these lies, and you can see clearly. So, but I think Danzil's answers is right. It's these frauds are there, but we're just going to have to step it up. But now, not with just 1 or 2 or 5, now with a list of 150, if you believe that number, I think that's fighting grounds.
Amen.
Who
Amen.
else has
Dan,
a question?
Dan, can I go? I have to sit them up about Dan's statement, because he mentioned about the recovery responses that they give. They always have these safety where they'll find
rescuing devices.
Rescuing devices, right? And I'm very good with this. I'm very good with the rescuing devices. What the response to rescuing devices is also, because remember, the rescuing devices to take the people's attention off of the actual facts that discredit them. So you don't let them do that. This is like, you can't let them play these games with us. I've made a list of about 13 different tactics that these people use. And I'm trying to go through each of them to let people know that when you get these tactics down pat, you expect them, and then you know how to respond to them. A rescuing device is not a refutation. A rescuing device is a shifting the goalposts. It's moving person's attention away from the facts. I bring them right back to the facts. I say what you just said does not disprove or prove this point.
Right.
And
I understand the principle, the play there. But my question was specifically, what rescuing devices do you see being employed against your work? I want to know if you thought about any specific ones.
I think over time that they will take down Tumai displays. And I think over time they will de-emphasize, like at the American Museum, the human evolution display, they don't even hardly mention brain sizes. And that used to be their big thing, that Homo erectus was, this size, and Homo habilis was this size. But now that is what they're doing, is they're just de-emphasizing it and move on to the next unusual name of a fossil. So I don't know. I don't think I'm giving you the best answer, but I think that's what they're going to do is they're going to just de-emphasize stuff, take displays down, change their displays. But man, these are serious words when you use the word fraud. I consider it very serious. I wouldn't use it because it's libelous, and I open myself open to libel unless there's something you can actually prove to show why you're saying the word fraud.
A great question, Dan. Great
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Looks like the raccoon has a question.
Yes.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, this is Joel, not a raccoon, actually. I didn't have any misplaced femurs or whatever. So, no, okay. So my question is, it's similar to the one that was just asked. I imagine the rescue device that would be employed would come along the lines of, well, yes, there are examples of shoddy science in the past, but we've come a long way from there, and our modern peer review is a much more rigorous process, and there's some truth to that. Like 100 years ago, it was kind of a wild west science. What is the most modern example? Would that be the Tumai?
Tumai would be the most modern example off the top of my head. Homo habilis is just being exposed. That was 1964 to 1990. Lucy, nobody knows about those frauds. Those were from 1974 to 1994-ish, I'd have to think about what the most recent one, but I would say, no, this isn't just mistakes. This is fraud, purposeful fraud, and not just a few. It's more than 100. And it really raises the specter that this whole science is fraudulent based or ignorance based, but not factual based.
Joel?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think first of all, I thank you for that statement and that question and add on to what Dan said. You're absolutely right that they will use this. We're a lot more advanced now than we were before, and they'll try to poo-poo it. And this is one of the things I've been trying to say, that I've been trying to get my brothers and sisters to realize, that these tactics that they use to kind of like minimize the seriousness of what's going on. And your point is very well taken. They will just make it seem like, well, we're more advanced than we were back then. But the truth of the matter is that where they are right now, as far as the money that they're getting, the foundations upon which all of their what modern evolution is built upon, were fraudulent. And we can't let them get away with just saying that we have to go move with the times. They're built upon a faulty foundation. And a lot of the tactics that they were using back then are still being used today, just more sophisticated. They're still lying today about things, and they are still. I watched Dr. Nathaniel Jensen when he was doing a debate, and I found this with a lot of our scientists, our creationist scientists who are putting out material. When people debate them, you find that they rarely ever read their material. And Jameson, he was in a debate, said, you're debating me and you're complaining about my research, but you never read my research. And so the point is that they get away with playing games that we let them get away with, and we can't do that. We have to start being sharp, on point whenever they pull these tricks on us, like when you mentioned, Joel, like the one that Dan mentioned. And we have to be sharp as we respond to them, so that those are no longer relevant, no longer useful. We have to take away these weapons that they're using to keep us silent, or to make us look like we're stupid for questioning what they're doing.
Joel, I have another point on that too, is there is a delay on discovering the frauds. It's about a 40-year delay, and it takes the scientists retiring or dying, and then the next generation of scientists being able to examine his fossils. But it is a recurrent theme throughout the book and the video series that the scientists won't call these guys out until they retire or until they die. Then they'll reveal the frauds, generally. Also, the reason there's not a lot of modern one is because the scientists hide their fossils. I know that sounds spectacular and that's hard to believe. But if you watch the last episode, episode 8, scientists hiding fossils, we go through starting at the beginning all the way up to the end where the scientists won't let you see the fossils. And it's really a continuum. And I could go through the examples, but I'm not going to waste the time right now. But the modern ape men, the most common ones, we weren't able to film. We're not allowed to see them. Even though we're in a room 20 feet away from them, they won't let us see them or film them, or they'll cancel the interview or something like that because they want to keep their machinery going that they did find an ape man. They don't want some other scientists to find out that it's not. So that there's a big lag here. So most of the time you're only going to get the older ones because the new ones, those scientists are still active in the community. They know there's repercussions if they criticize them, call them out as liars or whatever. So they don't until once they retire, man, they'd step up and they start really spouting off on camera.
What reasons do they give for denying access?
You name it. I'm serious. We flew to South Africa to interview the guy who did Naladi and Sadiba. And we flew there. We had a meeting set up with him. We're supposed to meet and see the fossils. And when he found out that he asked right before we left, who else are you going to interview? And we said, well, we're going to interview Ron Clark. And then the next thing I know is when we got off the plane in South Africa, he said, I'm not giving you an interview and you can't see my fossils. And the reason is Ron Clark said his fossils were not anything new. One was Homo erectus, one was Africanus. But the same with Tumai. He didn't allow the fossils to be seen. Same with Eugene Du Bois with Homo erectus, Pithecanthropus. He put his fossils away for 25 years during the most important years when all the debates going on. He wouldn't let anybody see them. And it's a long list, enough that I made a whole show about scientists hiding fossils because they don't want to be called out. And so it'll never be disproved. You can't disprove them all because you can't even get to the fossils of the latest, you know?
Dr. Carl, I'm sorry you guys for interjecting so much, but this is.
I appreciate it actually, Dan.
I'm passionate about this, and I when something like this comes up, I can tell you the experience that I've had, but I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to respond to what he just said about the way that they use these tactics to prolong their relevance by not letting people see the actual items. And when they do let somebody see it, it's usually somebody that agrees with what they're doing. So our responsibility, and we do have people who are experts in those same fields who can identify whether what they have is right or not. But we have to have access to it. If we don't have access, we can't fight that battle. But we can demand that we are not going to be willing to accept it or let anybody else be deceived by it until someone who are credible are able to examine that material. We're constantly hearing about these new discoveries that they're making, and as Dr. Werner says, they prolong them, and only certain people can see them and write about them, and we don't.
Only their friends. Only their friends can see them.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
The ones who are going to agree with them. Yeah.
So this is the fight that we have to make sure we keep before the public's eye, because the public don't understand this. Another point I want to make is that when the lies are actually exposed, they'll produce the claim massively in all of their major publications and all of their news media and everything, and then when it's exposed as a lie, they put it in the back page of the periodical someplace where you never really hear about the exposure. Right. So the world thinks that these evidences are still the evidences. It's our job. We can't expect them to expose that. It's our job to expose that.
You know, I really like the idea of anticipating strategies, how to answer these guys and how to challenge them, and maybe developing some kind of a training program for all of us to, to get our acts together and know what to do.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I say we do need to do this. Now, what I've been doing in my spare time is that what I try to do is start cataloging everything. Everything, the old and the new. When I see something comes out, I listen to Dr. Jason Lyles debating somebody, or Nathaniel Jameson, or whoever it is on our side debating people. I make meticulous notes about the way we argue against these people and refute them. I keep that in my catalog so that when I get exposed to this stuff, I can respond that way. And I told, see, I'm not a scientist. And I told Dr. Warner that when I get into some of the debates with some of these atheist scientists, and they say, listen, why am I wasting my time talking to you? You're not even a scientist. I said, the reason why you waste your time talking with me is because what I'm saying to you is getting under your claw, because what you're debating is not me. You're debating the evidence of the scientists that I'm referring to. And that's what I do. That's why I cause them such a hard time, because I'm using these experts like Carl's information. And so they're not arguing with me or debating with me, and they can't dismiss me like that, because I'm not claiming to be the one with the source, but I'm giving you these credible sources. We have to start training ourselves to document information, to catalog information, and to make it and go over it so that it's second nature to us. And when we talk to these people who have been making so much progress in deceiving the world, we can actually we can reverse this thing.
I call Danzel my junkyard dog.
Amen. I received it too. Amen. Oof, oof.
Daniel, can we get your email address too?
Oh, sure. DANZ as in zebra, ZILDANZILM at yahoo.com.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And as Carl mentioned, he's written these books. So he has 2 books. One was put out in 2007. I've been sharing that book with anybody who's willing to listen to me. And we carry it here. I mean, so if somebody is interested in Evolution, the Grand Experiment, Volume 1, or you could just get it through Master Books, or Carl, if you have it there, I don't know. And then they have the second volume, Living Fossils. So I read that book back in 2007, and it really changed me, because now I was really able to debate with these different atheists, and I am of no intellect, just so that you know. So everything, I hang around with a lot of creationists. I work for Jason Lyle, and I'm definitely not as smart as he is. Master Books even has a teacher guide, so you could use it as a class, and teach people. And I love it. I carry around my book. Every doctor's office I go to, I walk in there with this, because they're just nosy and they want to see what I'm reading. And there's Darwin's face on there. And I love challenging these doctors. I know they all went through medical school. They all had evolution. And I love just to, have a it's great conversation started, just to get them talking, find out what they believe, and, just get them to think through some of their thoughts. And that's all we could do, because we know God's the one who's going to do all the work, but he could certainly use us to help them along the way.
That's right. Carl wasn't always a creationist.
I know.
A lot of people who are now in this battle were once atheist unbelievers, and
Yes.
they were provoked to do their research by having questions and being challenged.
Right.
So
Well, that's
that
what I
still
share with
happens.
people. I love the fact that Carl Werner was an evolutionist,
Amen.
so he knows your side already. He's
You
been
know
there, done
why?
that.
Do you know why I was an evolutionist? Because of Ernst Haeckel. Ernst
Wow.
Haeckel's frauds.
Yeah.
That was the evidence that convinced me, in medical
Yes.
school. So,
Yeah.
so there we go
To
back
this
to the
very
fraud.
day.
Hey, I have another question for you, Carl, if you've got time.
Oh, I got all the time. I just don't want to burden anybody.
Okay. Yeah. So this is Joel again. So my question is, there's this, we get a lot of claims and evidences from the evolutionary worldview, and there are 2 approaches that we take as creationists. Both have their place. One is to explain the data away, and I think that's kind of what we see here, where we explain the data as, well, this is fraudulent. This is not even real evidence. But then sometimes they do put things forth that are legitimately scientific, in the sense that here is this skull or bone fragments that don't quite look like modern human, but they also don't look like a modern ape. So what examples of that did you come across? Ones that we have to explain as a creationist because they are legitimate scientific claims.
Thank you. This talk today was just about the fraud. There's like 4 more components to this book series and the evolution series, and I didn't want to go off the tangent because there's so much to do. But I took pictures of the Homo erectus skull pieces and then laid them next to American Indians, Australian Aborigines skull pieces. So you can see that these strange skulls that you're talking about, Joel, that are very confusing, once you see them right next to the skulls of modern humans, where you've looked for skulls that look like that, there's the explanation. Hey, there's people today that look like Homo erectus and that look like Neanderthal. And here are on this page, on this is book 4, here are 12 skulls. And you tell me which ones are Homo sapiens and which ones are Homo erectus and which ones are Neanderthal. And so that is a very powerful tool. I didn't want to mention it because I didn't want to get off my track, you know.
No, that sounds fantastic.
Great.
That sounds like exactly the sort of thing I was asking about.
Yeah, because
Thanks for mentioning it.
when you walk into the American Museum, they show you these compelling skulls and you get overwhelmed, but you just almost have to just, okay, step back and say, okay, let's do one at a time, Homo erectus, and then, okay, let's compare it to all these other animals. And just like the Homo erectus does look like the Australian Aborigine. And you place them side by side, it's stunningly close. Yeah.
Great
Dr.
question.
Werner,
Great question. Who,
Wh-
Dave?
what's the website for the episodes again?
Okay. The Grand Experiment, no spaces, the Grand Experiment dot VHX, that's V like in Victor, H like in hell, and X like in X-ray, dot TV. The Grand Experiment dot VHX dot TV.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joel, I really appreciate the questions that you've asked. Very, very poignant. I really appreciate them because that forces us to think on this high level, so that we'll be able to respond to these people and their tricks.
I
As Carl
agree.
said, they have a way. Remember, a lot of the science is not really based on scientific proof, but it's basically on opinions, really based on a person's interpretation of what they see. A lot of science is like that. And we have to understand that that's where their power is at. But if they can interpret something the way they want to support their views, we can interpret it the way we want to support what we see. And we have the greater foundation. So I think that, as Carl was saying, we have to really understand that their power is in being able to say things that are not true and claim that they are true, even without having any kind of evidence. And we have to recognize that that's the way they are. That's practice. You see them videos that Carl was talking about. I mean, the video series is phenomenal. I mean, after watching those videos, I thought I knew how fraudulent they were and how untrustworthy they were. Those videos took it up a notch higher. And it made me so much more confident about when I'm talking to these people that I can't let them snow me or make me feel like I'm stupid for questioning what they do, because they have a history of lying. They have a history of interpreting things the way it would make them look like they're telling the truth. And I said, we got to stop letting them get away with that. We really do. So I thank you, Carl. I thank Dr. Jason. I think all of these scientists on the creation side, all of you that are involved with creation ministry, y'all are my peoples, man. Y'all are my peoples. And I'm telling you.
Carl, you were on the, you came to one of our meetings when,
Yeah, he
when
was.
Joel spoke.
Joel was
Yeah.
yeah. I think he's
Yeah.
from Brown University. Joel, are you from Brown University or something?
Cornell University.
Cornell, the guy's from Cornell. He's sitting here. Okay. All right, Sue, right. What is your question?
Well, just about the resources. I've read the book on my computer, seen the DVDs, and it is a beautiful book. Did you say that it's available in hard copy?
Yes. So,
Awesome.
the publishers turned me down, and I think it's because there's a problem with selling books. It's all, everything's going digital, and spend $70,000 to print a book. It's very expensive for them. They didn't want to do the investment, which would have been, $150,000. So I thought I was sunk, but then I put it out. Both of these books. First, I put them on Kindle, but then Kindle says, "Do you want to print the book?" And I was like, "I want to print the book." But here's the problem. The softbound book, I actually think it's worth it, but it's so pricey. It's like $40 on Amazon right now. But the good part is you can order it anywhere in the world, and it's printed in that part of the world. So it's $10 more than I would have expected, but it comes in softbound, all color, hardbound, all color. And so, yes, you can, if you're a paper person, it is available.
That is well worth the price.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's pricey because they print one at a time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if that's the way you need to do it, get it out there, man.
Man.
And the
And
advantage
is that volume 3 and 4?
Here's volume 3. I don't have volume 4 in front of me in paper version, but it's out in paper and hardback for $50. And same with volume 5, the bibliography. It's all available in paper version, softbound, hardbound, and Kindle. The 5 isn't available by Kindle.
Okay, and by going where?
If you check my website in a week, we'll have it refreshed, but you could just go to tonight, you could go to amazon.com or whatever, Canada, and just type in Evolution, the Grand Experiment, volume 3, volume 4, and then if you want the bibliography, volume 5.
I was told long ago, I believe what I was told. I was told Jesus is coming soon. I was just a child when I was told, just a lad, but now I am grown, and I still believe he's coming.